Hello folks! So this is going to be a pretty quick video for you on how to find the surface area and volume of a sphere. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. I have one surface area and one volume example for you in this video. All right, so formula for the surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r squared. Right? We're actually going to do an activity in class that kind of shows you why this formula is the way that it is. And if you're curious about the proof of that and why this formula works the way that it does, as well as the volume formula, let me know. I don't usually go into the proof about surface area and volume for a sphere, like why the formulas work. But there are a couple of proofs for it. So if that's something that you're interested in learning about, send me a message, let me know, and I'm happy to show you. Okay, but so the surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r squared, right? And then the volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed, all right? So these are just two formulas really that you're going to have to memorize, right? So I'm going to do a surface area and a volume example for you, okay? So for my surface area in this problem, they give me the diameter actually. Right, they tell me that the diameter of this sphere is 12 centimeters. So in order to find the radius, I'm going to take the diameter and cut it in half. Okay, so that's 12 divided by 2, which is 6. Right, once you have the radius, you can plug it directly into that surface area formula. So my surface area is 4 pi r squared. Okay, so if my radius is 6, that's 4 pi times 6 squared. And then once you get to this point, just follow your order of operations. So I have 4 pi times, and then 6 squared is 36. Okay, and then I'm going to do 36 times 4 in my calculator, or if you can do that in your head, even better. Okay, so that's 144, and I still have my pi right there. And once you get to that point, multiply 144 by pi using your calculator. Right, when I did that, I got 452.39 when I rounded. Okay, and because the unit in my original problem was centimeters, that's going to be the unit in my final answer, but I want to make sure I put a little squared right there so that we know we're talking about an area, right? So that's a pretty straightforward and pretty common surface area example, right? So we're going to do one more here with volume with a slightly different sphere. So again, they gave me the diameter of this sphere. Okay, so I need to make sure I find the radius first. Okay, so radius is diameter divided by 2. So that's 18.2 divided by 2. Right, and that is 9.1. So that's going to be my radius. Okay, so my volume formula is 4/3 pi r cubed. Okay, so here that's 4/3 pi times, and then my radius is 9.1, so 9.1 squared. And then just like surface area, I'm gonna go ahead and do this in the order that my order of operations tells me to. So I'm gonna do 9.1 squared first, and that gives me 4/3 pi times, and then this is 82.81. Okay, now 4/3, right? When you have 4/3 here at the front, what you're actually doing, okay, oh, actually, hold on. Okay, what you're actually doing when you do 4/3 right here is times 4 and divided by 3. Okay, so you can do that in any order that you wish. Okay, but what I'm going to do is do the times 4 part. So 82.81 times 4 is 331.24. And then I still have my pi, and then that whole thing is being divided by 3. So then I'm going to do 331.24 divided by 3. Okay, and I got 110.41 with my pi still on it. Okay, and then my very last step is I need to multiply that 110.41 times pi. And when I do, sorry, I ran out of space a little bit here, I got 346.87 if you round. Then my very last thing here is my units. Since it's millimeters in the problem, it needs to be millimeters in the answer, but since it's volume, it needs to be millimeters cubed. All right. The biggest mistake that people make when they're doing volume problems is, oh my gosh, and I actually made that mistake. Did anybody catch it? My numbers are off because I accidentally wrote 9.1 squared right here, which is not correct. So this number is slightly larger. Apologies. This should be 9.1 cubed. Okay, so this number in here, 9.1, it's like that number seems a little bit too small. Okay, so 9.1 cubed is actually much larger than 82.81. Apologies, folks. See, this is a good lesson in check your math because even people like Miss E can end up making mistakes, like pretty easy ones. So 9.1 cubed is actually 753.57. Okay, so I'm going to take that number, multiply it by 4. Okay. Whoop. So that number times 4 is 3014.28. I'm going to divide that by 3. Okay, and I get 1004.76 times pi. Okay. There we go. That number makes a little bit more sense. I wondered when I got to the end, I was like, that number seems a little bit too small. It's because Miss E squared her radius instead of cubing it, which is exactly the mistake that I wanted to point out to you that a lot of people make when they're doing surface area and volume problems, right? That they forget to cube the radius instead of, some people will square it instead of cubing it, like I did when I did this the wrong way the first time, because most of the volume formulas that you've seen up to this point have a squared in them rather than a cubed, because they have some value that's being squared, and then you're multiplying by like another value, like a height or a slant height or something, which would be like that third dimension in order to give you a volume. Right? So make sure that you do radius cubed. Okay, very important. Okay, another thing that people mess up pretty easily, especially with volume, is that 4/3 at the front. Okay, so my advice would be to deal with the cubed radius first, then whatever you get, multiply it by 4, and then divide that result by 3. That'll get you to this point right here, where you have some number with a pi next to it, and then you can do exactly what you've been doing for all of these other formulas that have a pi in them that we've really been dealing with since the start of Unit 7, really, when we were dealing with sector area and arc length, right? Where you take the number you got, multiply it by the pi symbol in your calculator, and then press equals, and it'll give you your final answer right there. All right, so my apologies for that little misstep there in the middle. But that is basically it for spheres, right? The formula for both surface area and volume is pretty simple, mostly because spheres really only have one dimension that we really care about, which is the radius, right? So you don't have a lot of like extra things that you're having to deal with. All right, so that is it for this video. If you are feeling pretty good about this video plus the surface area and volume formulas for pyramids and cones, you don't necessarily have to watch the practice problems video, but I do have one more video on the on surface area and volume of these shapes, pyramids, cones, and spheres, that comes right after this one. So feel free to watch that one if you need a couple more examples, right? But whatever video you're going to view next, I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.